This is Bob Serling for 10-Minute Tips for Maximum Health, and today I'm talking with Dr. Brian Mowll. Dr. Mowll is founder and medical director of Sweet Life Diabetes Health Centers and serves clients worldwide as the diabetes coach. Since 1998, he's been helping people with all forms of diabetes properly manage and reverse these complex conditions by addressing the root causes. He's the host of the widely popular Reversing Diabetes World Summit, as well as a prolific writer, blogger, and speaker on many health topics. His media appearances include Dr. Oz, CBS, The Doctors, Fox Philadelphia, and many more. And with diabetes being at a near epidemic level, I'm really pleased to have him share his wisdom on this important topic and other topics related to that today. So welcome, Brian.
Hey, Bob. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on with you.
Well, thank you. So my question is, what's the single best thing that you'd recommend people do for maximum health benefits right now?
Well, I've got some bias here because of what I do, but I think for me, the most important thing that all of us can do is to normalize and regulate our blood sugar. Blood sugar, to me, is where it's at when it comes to health. It's a biomarker, of course. We're talking about blood glucose levels. This is something that we can all test very easily with a simple at-home blood glucose monitor that can be picked up at any pharmacy. And it's a great way to monitor your health for a variety of reasons. Blood sugar is basically a measurement of our metabolic function. And our metabolism, which is essentially the breakdown of our food into energy and then how we turn that into fuel for our body, our metabolism ultimately determines our health, because the liver, which essentially is the main metabolic organ in the body, breaks down all our food. So we eat food, and that food consists of carbohydrates, fat, protein, and micronutrients like vitamins and minerals and antioxidants and such. That's all got to get absorbed through the gut and processed basically through the liver. And ultimately that metabolic machine becomes us. It becomes our muscle tissue, it becomes our brain, it becomes our organs, and all too often becomes our fat cells. So if your blood sugar, for example, is normal blood sugar, I'll start with that, is textbook normal is about 83, so we look for it to be about 80 to 85, and that's a fasting blood sugar, first thing in the morning before you eat. And if your blood sugar elevates, which many people's starts to rise, and we call that glucose intolerance, so people have blood sugar in the 90s. Once it crosses over 100, then it's termed prediabetes. And when that blood sugar starts to rise, it's a sign that your body is no longer able really to process carbohydrates in particular very well. And it's a sign that your metabolic machinery is breaking down. So it's a quick test that we can do, and it'll tell us a lot about our health. And then, of course, there's things we want to do to make sure that we are normalizing our blood sugar. But, diabetes is really, I think, the epidemic of today. Diabetes type 2 in particular, which makes up about 90% of all cases. There's over 25 million Americans suffering with right now. Many are still undiagnosed. When you add another 70 to 80 million with prediabetes in our country, that's a quarter of our population.
Wow, that's a really huge number. So what are a couple practical things that people can do if they're edging towards that dangerous number? And even if they aren't, if they just want to make sure they stay healthy and they keep their blood sugar at optimum levels, what are a couple practical things they can do to achieve that?
So we have to ask why blood sugar goes up in the first place, and it has to do with this hormone called insulin. Insulin is a hormone that helps us to keep our blood sugar down, and the first step to becoming pre-diabetic or diabetic type 2 is called insulin resistance. So we no longer respond properly to this hormone, and it just doesn't work. It's like a key that opens the door to allow sugar to get into our cells, and when that key doesn't open the lock, then the sugar can't get in, sugar starts to rise in the bloodstream. So the answer, the solution, is helping your body to use this hormone insulin better, and there's a lot of things that we can do to make that happen. The first one, though, goes right back to a good diet. We have to be able to eat a healthy diet with whole foods, real foods, cut out the processed and fried foods, cut out the foods that are high in processed simple carbohydrates like bread, pastas, sugars, cakes, cookies, candies, and so forth, and focus on real foods like fibrous vegetables, nuts and seeds, good quality proteins, and healthy fats. So I think that's where it starts.
Now, are there healthy carbs? Things like quinoa and brown rice, are they okay, or do they push the blood sugar level as well?
That's an excellent question, and there are healthy carbohydrate sources. I think vegetables are healthy for just about everybody, and even starchy vegetables like sweet potatoes, carrots, parsnips, beets, and even white potatoes, I think, have a place in most people's diet. Beans and legumes, you could argue, can be healthy for some and maybe not so healthy for others, depending on how we digest and break those down. For example, there's anti-nutrients like phytic acid and lectins and so forth in beans and legumes, as well as in grains. Now, rice and quinoa, which you mentioned, I think are probably the healthiest grains. They have the lowest amounts of anti-nutrients. They don't contain gluten, which is another anti-nutrient that can irritate the gut, drive inflammation, and cause problems with insulin signaling and raised blood sugar. So I think most people can tolerate rice and quinoa and starchy veggies very well. If someone has diabetes, though, I think we need to be a little bit more careful.
I see. Okay, great. And so you said the first thing was diet, and then you were about to mention another one when I kind of jumped in there.
Well, yeah, I think no surprises here, but physical activity is really important to actually be able to utilize glucose properly out of the bloodstream to get it into the muscles and the liver. So got to get some exercise. Sedentary lifestyle, I think, has led to a lot of problems with blood sugar management. Sleep is very, very important. It's important to get proper rest and sleep and to manage stress levels. I think those are the big things. Stress can drive up blood sugar faster than just about anything else.
Well, great. You know, I have a question I'd love to get some clarification on. I've read conflicting reports on how much diabetes contributes to heart disease, Alzheimer's disease, and strokes. Can you comment on that?
Absolutely, and the stats really paint a pretty clear picture. There's about a 700% increased risk of a heart attack or stroke with diabetes and elevated blood sugar. People with type 2 diabetes have a 50% greater risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. And kidney failure, diabetes is the leading cause of kidney failure and kidney disease in adults, and the leading cause of blindness in adults, and the leading cause of amputation in adults. So these are obviously, it's not a pretty picture. You know, diabetes can be tragic. The disease itself doesn't kill, but the complications do. And that's one of the challenges, is it's a silent disease that this damage can happen over time. Many people don't know they even have high blood sugar until it becomes very high and they start developing symptoms. That's not the time to find out. So you want to be proactive. Go get yourself a blood sugar meter and check your blood sugar every once in a while.
Well, that's great. This has just been excellent information. So I'd like to wrap up by just asking you how people can find out more about you and get in touch with you.
Yeah, well, I have a website, drmowll.com. That's drmowll.com. We have a video blog and a YouTube page. I write pretty prolifically and have lots of blogs on my website, but I'd love to have people check out the Diabetes Summit. It's an 8-day free seminar that anybody can join in. It's for lay people. I interviewed 40 experts in the field, and Kicks off March 23rd, so just a little bit away here, and I'd love to have people join us at thediabetessummit.com.
Well, that's great. Well, again, this has been really illuminating. I appreciate you taking the time from your busy schedule, so thank you so much.
Bob, thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure.